Hello guys, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's King What If, whatever. This will be a new What If. Honestly, I've been starting these What Ifs and I need to finish them. But yeah, next part I post will be with the Cut the Omnitrix Part 9. I should really post it, like, I've been recorded. Anyway, this will be, what if Deku made his own super soldier serum? Like Captain America. But Deku won't be like Captain America. He won't have his shield. He won't have everything. And now another thing to take into account is this. The world of My Hero Academia, even if you don't have a quirk, the world has evolved into superhumans. Okay? Like, even Deku may not have a quirk, but he's still a superhuman. You get it? So I'm guessing they, like, people, like, I'm guessing normal people in academia probably have like 25% of the skill that Captain America has. But people who train like vigorously like Deku, like you get it, you get it. So this is how we're gonna start this. Now Deku's quirkless and all, and we actually skipped to when Deku's the age of 11, as Deku just got caught. No, Deku, Bakugo and his friends had brought Deku to the place where Bakugo and Deku used to fish. So you know the place where like they were walking and Bakugo fell down? Or you know the place where Deku and Bakugo were going to fish and Deku was like, I can't wait to get my quirk, and Bakugo said it will never be good as mine. So basically, they just beat Deku up. Deku was fighting back, but they just beat him up. And they left him there, and Deku was like unconscious. Okay? As Deku wakes up and he checks his phone, and it's 3 p.m. And he's like, dang, I got beat up way too early today. And he starts to walk, and he wonders if he should call his mom. And he wonders what excuse he's gonna give now. As he's walking, he reaches the gate. Yes, as he's walking, he reaches the gate with the hole in it. Because remember, it was like private property. As he reaches the gate with the hole in it, he starts to look around and touch, make sure and nothing dropped. And as he does this, for the first time ever, he sees a pole. And Deku's like, this pole's never been here. But now the thing about this pole is, it's flickering from invisibility to visible. So it's like 1 second it's invisible, next second it's visible. And Deku's like, what the heck? And Deku thinks about, not going there because it could be a villain. But he decides to go, but sneakily. As Deku goes sneakingly, he reaches he he reaches like an area with lots of trees, and he reaches like a brick wall, and he's like a brick wall, and he touches it, and nothing happens. As he starts to touch it, he then touches one of the bricks, and they go inside as the brick wall starts to open, and it's just leaves. As Deku opens the leaves, there's like, as Deku opens the leaves, he walks in. Now, I know for a military base that's not high security, but still, as he walks in, as he walks in, he goes to like a dark tunnel. As as he's walking, a red light appears as it's going to scan Deku, and Deku says, "What do I do?" And Deku sees a skeleton. Now I don't want to make this that like that. Deku, Deku like stays there. He's like, identification unknown, error, error, and a gun comes out, and it goes to shoot Deku. As it starts to shoot Deku, and Deku hides behind like a crate, but the gun starts to malfunction and fall off, as the gun was rusty, and the thing would be like error, 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 as it shut down, and the doors would open as Deku would think about going back, but he's like, I've already made it this far, and Deku would walk in, and as he'd walk in, he'd come out, and he'd be outside again, but this time, there'd be like a base. Now, this base would, how do I, how big would this base be? And basically, uh, how big would the base be? How big would this base be? Basically, it would be it'd be the size of a track. Now, if you've ever been to a track, like a school one, and not like a smaller school-sized track, it'd be the size of a smaller school-sized track with like a smaller football field, you know, that would be the size of it. And Deku would start walking as the lights would go on. But as he'd start walking, the invisibility would start flicking on and off. And he'd walk through a door and see this building, again the size of the school track. The school track. As it'd be completely covered by vines. And Deku would go through the door as he would go through as he'd see tables and old computers and notes and just machines and such. And Deku would see this and he'd be like, whoa. As while walking, Deku would find a recording. He'd press the recording and it'd be like, day 566 of working on the Super Soldier Serum. We haven't been able to be successful. We haven't been successful after we've been trying to recreate it after the two were blown up. No one knows where the first super soldier was. No one knows where he was. He fell down in Antarctica. We've been trying to recreate it, but we can't. What are we missing? We can't get help from anyone else. We have declared this an off-the-books project. Only a few people in the government know about us, not the world. No one knows about us. If you're listening to this, I hope you have better luck than I do. The recording would say before it would stop. Deku would be like Super Soldier Serum, and Deku would start walking around as he would see a thing with a with like he would see a gate and it was like he'd see a door and it was it was like a heavenly guarded door. Deku would look as he'd see a key slot. As there would be three key slots. Deku, there'd be two key slots. So as Deku would be like two key slots. As he'd start to look around and he'd find one of the keys. And he'd start to look around as he'd see like the boss's office over top. As Deku would go to check out the boss office, as it had like notes and stuff on it, dates. Apparently this happened during the First World War or something. And Deku would find the key in his desk, which he had to break open. Deku would put both keys at the same time and switch it open. As he do that, a vial. As he do that, there would be like a vial of the serum, but this was an incomplete serum, so it didn't work. And Deku would see these notes, and Deku would decide maybe if he could do this, he could have superhuman abilities. So Deku would review the notes. Deku would take the notes home and review them. And Deku would start using this place as like his you know, fault. Now Deku found out why it was malfunctioning. It was just an old place. So Deku just rewired everything. Because Deku's smart. Like his IQ is smart. That's something I forgot to mention. Deku would rewire almost everything. But he would take out the lethal guns. Even if there was some people trying to break in, he didn't want to kill them. And Deku would actually change the authorization. So he was admin. He was like a Minecraft admin. Get it? And Deku, he would basically, Deku would start to read and he'd start to read and watch the experiments. Some of them were more graphic than the others. Some people grew, some people shrunk, some people turned into acid and fell down and died. It was scary. So we skipped 1 year and Deku's 12 years old. Deku's 12 years old. And Deku at this point has read all of the books, has read over all the notes, and he sees something. Apparently, in the first Super Soldier uh, serum, they had added all these chemicals and all these things, and the thing and it worked because they added a special chemical. Now, this special chemical reflects blood. This special chemical reflects red blood cells. Now, the only problem is they didn't even realize this. And Deku's like, how did a 13-year-old realize this, but not them? And they didn't even realize this. Okay? And the chemical they added was to replace was a replica of a blood cell, but it was a replica of a type O blood cell. Now, if you don't know, type O is a universal donor. If you need a if you're a type A, you can't get a blood transfusion from a type B or a type AB. You can only get it from a type A, but you can also get it from a type O. Type O can donate to any blood type, but though they can't be donated from any other blood type than O. So, Deku's blood type is also O too. Yeah, Deku's. Oh, fun fact about me. I'm actually. My blood type is O. That's a fun fact about me, I guess. Deku's blood type is also O. I wonder, do you know your blood type? That's the question you should ask yourselves. Anyway, as Deku would be like, I have type O blood type. But there was something else here. At this time, quirks were just making their appearance around the quirk were starting to make their appearance around this time. So it was, instead of it being 20% of the population that didn't have it, it was more 70%. So if he was to mix someone's quirk gene with their blood, something could happen. And Deku would also mix a little bit of liquid nitrogen. Because not liquid nitrogen. What do I say? There's this, I'm gonna say there's this one chemical called Roxy. And Roxy is actually sort of a random chemical. So Deku thought if he was to mix his quirk gene, since he was quirkless, with his blood, with Roxy, it could give him an extra random power. And Deku would start researching about the body, and he'd start reviewing more about each chemicals and their attributes. Now, Deku had a vial of the Super Soldier Serum, the one that he found, and Deku would actually decide to keep that the same. But Deku would remember Deku at this point he had actually cleaned up the place. Now, Deku had actually gone to place where like the person who there's like a cleaning place. Now this cleaning place is actually close to Hisashi. Now the person who owned this store is actually close to Hisashi. I'm gonna say Deku's grandpa. Deku's grandpa, actually owns some businesses. So he would have actually asked his grandpa to help him. And Deku's grandpa, I'm gonna say, has a duplication quirk. Okay, he can duplicate anything he says. Okay, and that way it would make sense for Hisashi to have a fire breathing quirk, because this quirk has something to do with sound. And Hisashi's mom quirk, I don't know, she's able to ignite things with her mouth. Like again, like just there are some weak quirks. Like, what is really considered quirkless? Because I was watching this, I've always had this thought, but I was watching this other video the other day of like Chunky Maru, and it was like, what if you have a quirk that allows? What if you have a pencil sharpening quirk? Like if you put a pencil in your mouth, you can instantly sharpen it. I mean, hey, at least you always have sharp pencils. But the side effect is the pencil shavings you have to they actually end up going in your mouth. Like what is actually considered quirkless? Like again, that one dude's quirk literally just allowed him to grow his fingers. Like can you even like you get it? Anyway, let's continue. As now he'd have like a dull deck. So no. Actually, let me not do that. Duplicate anything he says. Because then he'd just be duplicating the Super Soul Serum. No. But Deku would actually find an old friend of his, and he had like a duplication quirk and such. So he couldn't duplicate objects, but he could duplicate people. And Deku would ask him to duplicate himself 50 times. And the dude would be like, that's going to cause massive strain on my body. But okay. As Deku would duplicate himself 50 times, and Deku, he would clean up the place and arrange everything. Deku would get rid of most of the tables, he'd keep the notes, and remember, he already rewired all the systems. So now this is like Deku's secret place. And Deku actually, at this point, Deku had done what he did normally, and everything was okay. But Deku wanted to try human testing, so Deku would use one of his clones, and his clones would start to die. And Deku would be like, what the heck? And Deku would be like, dang it, I can't, dang it, it's not working. As out of anger, he'd punch the ground. And while punching the ground, his hand would hurt. But he's in like the manager's office, so like this, like where he is. And Deku would realize something. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is hollow. Deku would start to rip open like the floor as he'd see that there was like a mechanism, and Deku would be like, what is this? And then a red light would come up, scanning Deku and be like, admin, clearance, highest clearance there is. I don't know what clearance is. And there would be a trap door that opens, and they would walk down the trapdoors. It'd be like a lab. Now, the lab would have actually said more about the notes, and that the notes were wrong, and that this was for anybody who wanted to try to steal them. So, Deku has been making the wrong one all this time. But it turns out it was just an easy fix. Turns out that they had they had stabilizers, and these stabilized super serums you had to mix with the real super serum for it to actually work. But the stabilizers were all destroyed. So Deku would spend the next year making a stabilizer super serum until Deku was 13. Okay. Deku would now, yes, Deku would finally make the super soldier serum. No, yes, Deku would make it, and he'd end up just touching up. Now, for this to be possible, it had to, now Deku would end up mixing the stabilizer with his 3 super soldier serums that he had left. And Deku would end up like, mixing it. Shoo, 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 shoo. I don't know why I did that. And it would actually take a long time, and Deku would actually finish it. And Deku would wonder if he should take it or not. And Deku, I don't know. Deku would decide to just read more and view more of the experiments, you know? But Deku would have 3 complete versions of the Super Soldier Serum. He had 4, but he tested it on one of his clones. And he realized his clones grew muscles and were quicker and faster. So he killed the clone. It's not as dark as it's. They're like shadow clones, basically. If they die, they just poof. That's all. Anyway, Deku would start to research more and more on these topics as he would as he'd find out that they had actually made a temporary stabilizer, and Deku researching this would find out he could make the Super Soldier Serum temporarily, as Deku would actually make a temporal Super Soldier Serum and give it to one of the clones. Again, his friend lives in Japan, so he can just get any clones he wants. And the Super Soldier Serum would have actually lasted for 15 minutes, and Deku would be like, 15 minutes, huh? And there was no drawback, you know? And he keep feeding the clone the temporal Super Soldier Serum, and then he starts to notice a drawback. This happens every 2 times you take it in your body. Doesn't matter, you could take it one day, then take it the next year, and it'll happen. If you take it, your body will actually start to, like, break down, and you'll cough blood, and then you need to rest. So I guess that is the problem. Actually, nah, I'm not even gonna do that. There was no side effect. And Deku would start remaking these Super Soldier Serums, and these temporal Super Soldier Serums, and then Deku would mix the Roxy and, you know, the the copy of the red zero type blood cells, and Deku would say, so if I can, if I mix the Roxy with the zero type blood cells, then this won't only, enhance their physique, but it'll also enhance their quirks too. And Deku would start the next year working on them. And Deku at this point, he has hundreds. No, he has like 60 or 70 of these temporal super soldier boosts. And Deku takes them himself, you know. He doesn't take them himself, but more like one day, Deku decided that maybe what he was doing was too extreme. So Deku would shut down his lab, and he would have repaired he repaired the camouflage and stuff, and he kind of updated the security. So, but he shut down his lab and just decided to walk out. And we're gonna skip of 2 months. Now Deku's actually a little fit in this version. And we go to school, and the teacher walks in, and he's like, class, what do you guys want to do? And he throw up the papers that they say, yeah, you guys all want to be heroes. And they'd be like, yeah, yeah. And they could be like, yeah. And then the teacher would tell that Baku wanted to be a hero. And then he'd say Deku wanted to go to UA. And Baku would slam his hand on Deku's desk. He'd be like, Deku, you nerd. You'll never be a hero. You don't even have a quirk. As Deku would say, I guess that is the problem. As Baku would say, just don't even apply. And afterwards, that whole thing would happen. Now, Deku would actually have one of the pills in his pocket. Now, these are pills, okay? These things, they're pills. All you have to do is take them and drink them. They're literally just pills inside, okay? Now, these pills aren't normal pills. These pills, like, they're, like, they switch colors for some reason. Like they look like they they will switch green and then like red, and these are what they are basically. And one day Deku would basically be walking home as he'd be attacked by the sludge villain. And the sludge villain would try to grab Deku, but Deku would move out the way because he was quicker. And Deku would move out the way because of how quick he was. So, uh, he would take the pill and put it in his mouth, as there'd be steam coming off of him. You know, he needed like 30 minutes to activate. And sludge villain would grab Deku and start choking him out. And Deku would just be counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As Deku would count down, as he'd start to force his way out the sludge villain. Sludge villain would be like, what? As the sludge villain would go for an attack, and Deku would jump up and he'd kick the sludge villain. As the sludge villain's head would actually go up to like the roof of the bridge, and Deku would start fighting, but then All Might would appear and say, Texas Smash! Blowing away everything. And Deku would see All Might as he'd rush to go help. Now, Deku isn't as big as All Might fan anymore because he spent most of his time not watching the video but doing his research. So, also Deku's really smart 'cause he's read over all of those people's notes too, so he's really smart. He might be smarter than Momo. Anyway, basically All Might would go to jump and Deku would jump onto All Might as he'd be like, wait, All Might, I wanna ask you a question. And Deku would actually notice the bottle fall of the sludge villain bottle falling out and he'd actually grab it. And All Might would be like, what? Deku would be like, can I become a hero without a and then All Might would collapse. And Deku would ask what happened. And All Might would explain what happened. And All Might would tell Deku he still couldn't become a hero. And, you know, as All Might would be like, now I have to get this guy to the station. And basically, Deku would be sad and he'd say, I can't be a hero without a quirk, huh? Okay. And Deku would actually jump off the building and land on his feet. As he'd start to run, and he was running really fast, faster than a car. Now at this point, he would have ran past Bakugo's group because they wouldn't have been attacked, you know. And Deku would run past them as they'd be like, "Is that Deku? Is he running faster than cars? How is that even possible?" And then they like Baku would like be like, "Wait, what?" But anyway, Deku would run to the forest, but the serum would wear off, so Deku would like literally take like 5 minutes just to catch his breath. But besides that, Deku, besides that, Deku would what is it? Small headache. Deku would run to his place, and he'd put in his authorization system, and he'd walk in as he'd say lights on and such, and Deku would be like, it's time to do this. I didn't want to do this to myself, but I have to. And Deku would open the cabinet, and now it took Deku 3 years. Wait, 11, 12, 13. It took Deku 3 years just to make 4 Super Soldier vials, and he still has the original one that he found like 3 years ago. It took Deku 3 years to make just 3 of these, as Deku had to be as careful as possible. This is the one with the Roxy and the rock. All 3 of them has the Roxy effect. Now Deku would have actually found Deku would have found a machine while he was rewiring this place. It looked like this is the machine that you use. So Deku would start to use his authorization zone secret password Hasashi, Because I'm gonna say Hasashi's still a deadbeat, so no one would guess it was Hasashi. The secret password, Hasashi, as the thing would come up and like when I say all the doors would start to get slammed and metal would be surrounded, and Deku would laugh as he'd think the first time this happened he thought he was gonna die. And there'd be things popping up and such, and there'd be satellites all over the place. Now again, this is an off the book project, so not even the government knows about it today. No government knows about this. Only some people in the government knew about this, but they're dead. Okay, they're dead. So nobody knows about this. So this is all Deku's project. So basically, Deku would inject the serum in the pod. Now the only problem was Deku needed some way to wirelessly control the pod, the the like the board that injected him while he was inside the pod. And Deku would act this actually take Deku just 2 months, and Deku would find out a way Neuralink. Deku would neurally link the pod with his mind, and while he was inside, he would control it. Psych, he didn't do that. He just got one of his clones. And for the sake of this what if, his friend was moving away. Okay, so he just got one of his clones to do it. Now again, the clones know everything Deku knows. If he wants them to at least. So they already knew that Deku had literally read all the papers in this place. He's memorized them. He's muttered about it, and Deku would actually do it. Now, since this is a different serum that Deku created, it would have actually taken like 2 hours, and like there'd be a giant lightning strike over Japan, and the lightning would keep hitting the rudders of the base that Deku's in, and it keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting, and people would be like, "What the heck is happening? Is the world ending?" You know. As after 2 hours, the lightning would stop because like this thing is like calling in lightning, okay? Because it can't do it based off of normal power, or at least it couldn't because this was like 70 years in the past. I don't know if how power is in My Academia now, but still. And the process would come out, and Deku would come out like 2 inches taller. Basically, he's at Todoroki's height, I think. I don't know how tall Todoroki is. Basically, he's like 2 inches taller than he normally was. And he would be built with muscles and everything, and Deku would fall to the ground as there'd be water all around him. And his clone, who had to stay awake, not stay awake, but who had to watch carefully, because if there was one wrong move, it would have killed him. So this is why Deku only trusted himself. Which is why Deku did think about doing the neural uplink, but he realized that there could be multiple times during the procedure where his body would be in pain and his mind wouldn't be focused. So the the clone would actually stay there and help Deku. And at this point, Deku's shirt would have actually sort of ripped off, but his pants would still be the same because he was wearing like some sort of track pants. And Deku would be like, "Yes, I did it." And the clone would be like, "I think I'm gonna disappear in like an hour or two, so let me just help you up." And they'd leave as Deku would issue the shutdown protocol for like shutdown protocol and activate camouflage, you know, and maximum security for like 2 days in case anybody was gonna try to investigate this, you know. Now Deku also changed the security to get in because touching a brick wall and getting in wasn't good enough. So he has underground bases, he has underground entryways and all that good stuff. And Deku would realize that he didn't want his mom to see him without the shirt. Now, if you're wondering how Deku looks, go watch Captain America the First Avenger. That's how he looks. But again, he's shorter, like, he's like 2 inches taller than how he was in the original. So, but he still has like the same muscles as Captain America and such. Basically, that's what I'm saying. As Deku, now Inca would be like, "Izuku, are you okay?" And Deku actually bought a new shirt. No, I don't know. Deku's clone would have actually no. Yes, Deku's clone would have actually no. The shirt would have just gone away. And like Deku would have bought a new shirt. It was just like an American shirt, basically. And Deku, the clone would disappear. As Deku would start to walk in, Deku would say, "Alright, the side effects, ah." And Deku would start to have a giant headache as he'd be like, "Hi, Mom. I have a giant headache. Can I just sleep? And I don't feel like going to school tomorrow." Deku would say, as they'd be like, "Okay." Today was Thursday, so if he didn't go to school tomorrow, he just wouldn't go to school for the next 2 days after that. And Deku would actually end up sleeping. He would actually end up sleeping for the entire day. And Inko would have been worried about him, but he would have woke up on Saturday to watch My Hero Academia Season 5. It, I think it was a good joke because My Hero Academia comes out on Saturdays, and he would have actually like came out like on Saturday, and he would have woke up but he did feel taller, and he would go to the mirror and take his shirt off. So he'd be like, yeah, yeah. He'd have a V pack too. Now, if you don't know, there are three types of six packs. They're mainly they're like in different shapes basically. You have a normal six pack, which is like just normal six pack. Then you have an oblique six pack, and it's like a round six pack. Then you have a V pack, which is where like it's like a V pack. It's like shaped like a V basically. The guy had a V pack, and he had a V pack, and he didn't just have 12. He didn't have six pack. He didn't have a six pack. He had an 8 pack, and Deku would be like, yeah. Now, luckily, Deku's clothes really just were kind of burnt off. Deku's shirt was kind of ruined, burnt off during the experiment. So technically, he didn't really have to change any of his clothes. And Deku would decide to go for a run. And now, there's a difference between the permanent super soldier serum and the temporal one. The temporal super soldier serum only has 65% of the, you know, of the full potential that the permanent one has. Deku would start to go for a run, and Deku would run nonstop for 2 hours, you know, before he'd take a break. And Deku was tired, but still, he felt like running more. Basically, like, you know how Captain America ran around the entire national monument and stuff. It was like so. He was fast too. Deku would then decide to train more. So he'd go to Kohono Beach. He'd see the beach was completely covered in dirt, in trash. And Deku would decide to clean the beach, but not before trying to test something out. Now, Deku would hold his breath and go underwater. As he'd hold his breath, he'd count. He timed because he put his phone on the shore and went underwater. And Deku would come up as it'd be like he had hold his breath for 15 minutes. Impressive. And basically, over the next 9 months, Deku would start to train at a planet. He'd just start training, and he'd start training. Now, Deku was curious about something though. Why didn't his blood mix with his quirk gene mix with the Roxy kick in yet? As Deku would just be like, oh my god. As Deku would have been training late, and he had to do a science project where he had to actually build an actual mini car that worked. And this like for his super advanced science class. Now, Deku's super smart, because again, he's smarter than Momo in this version. I mean, Deku's just to let you know, there are multiple type of smarts. Deku's only book smarts, okay? Deku's like science smarts, like he knows chemicals and stuff. That's like, for example, you have tactical smarts where like you may not be the smartest, but you're good at planning strategies. book smarts were like you're good in education, street smarts. Like I feel like Light Yagami was street smart because he was smart, and then like L, he was like like there are just different type of smarts. Just like if someone calls you dumb, you might not be the smartest in education, but you but just remember there are different type of smarts. So even if you're not smart in one category, you're smart in another one. Just remember that. But Deku, would be looking at the project and he would start to build it and his hands would start to move really quickly. And he built the car and it was a Z type. It was an old Z type. And Deku would be like, how did I just do that? And Deku would go to sleep actually. And the next day he'd wake up early and he would decide not to do his routine because he was kind of tired and Deku would take a shower. And he'd just be like, ready to go to school. And Deku would look at his car again and he'd start looking at weak points and for some reason, he'd start breaking the car down. And then Deku would be like, why did I just do that? And then Deku would like build it again super fast. And it would actually even better. And Deku would be like, what's happening? You know, as Deku's walking out, he starts to look at, everything around him. As it's like he has a third eye that can see like different things, like weak points of objects and like he can see how and it's like he has a second brain too, like he's just thinking, well, how can I make this better? Or how can I destroy this? You know? As Deku's just walking and such. Like he's just walking and such. As he goes to his school. Now in science class they're doing like a race and Deku wins the race. Like and his car's super fast and stuff and Deku's still just like, what is going on? And Deku decides he think he knows. Deku goes back to his base and Deku like scans himself. Now they did have technology that could scan if you did have a quirk. And Deku would scan himself and he would have realized his quirk gene had been activated. Now due to the Roxy, he didn't get a quirk like both his parents. He got a random quirk. And researching and doing more research about it, Deku's quirk was called pick was called breakdown. Put to was called uh Deku's quirk was called breakdown and put together. Okay, and Deku could look at an object and break it down and put it together better than it was. So basically, how I got this idea was I wanted to make a what if, but I decided to just incorporate it in this what if too. I wanted to make a what if Deku was like Jerry Rig. Now if you don't know who Jerry Rig is a Ben 10 alien. And he can basically break anything apart in seconds, even a full car, but then he can put it back together better than it was. So that was basically what I wanted to do. And Deku would be like, that's it. It's Jerry Rig. That the ability is called Jerry Rig. Deku's like, that's it. I can do this and that. Deku was thinking about UA. Now Deku didn't want anybody finding out about this place, because if he signed up as a quirkless kid, and people start seeing these abilities, they would start asking him about it. And Deku would know he couldn't lie forever, so Deku would decide to go change his quirk registration, as his quirk would be called Super Breakdown Soldier, as his quirk gave him the ability to see and break down objects. No, no, his quirk like super soldier mechanic. He he basically had all. He was basically a super soldier, but he could also see, you get it. And the 10 months would be over, and Deku would have actually cleaned up the beach. And Deku would actually be happy. He'd be ready to prove himself. Now, Deku would go to UA and he would walk through the gates. And he wouldn't trip this time. But Deku would go to UA and he'd walk through the gates. And he'd be ready. And President Mike's class would still be the same. So it was like the same basically. And then after that, President Mike, and yeah, after that, they go outside as President Mike could be like, "Are you guys ready? Let's start in 3." Wait, no, President Mike didn't do a countdown. But they could be like, "Are you guys ready? You know, go." As everybody would start to go. And that's where I'm gonna leave this video off. Now, comment if you like this video. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make part 2. But if nobody comments on this video, I'm not making a part 3. And I'm only making part 2 because it's this. What if it's actually fun? If no one comments, I won't make part 3. I'll just do it in private, you know. Let's record it for myself. Come on, just one person has to comment. Anyway, bye.